Hi there, in this quick tutorial I'm going to show how you can create a lenticular lens effect similar to this. So you can see we can see one image there, and then as the object rotates around we can see another image. And of course you can also do this with a movie. So you can here see that we have one moving image and then it switches over and we can see a different video file altogether. And then it will rotate back again and we can see the first images again. So to do this, first of all, let's just create an object. So I'll just add the typical cube and we're going to edit mode, face select that front face and scale on the X down to close to 0. You can probably do it at 0. I just went close to 0. Next thing we're going to do is add some materials. So we'll just say new there and we'll just add a dark colored material. We'll call this dark. Doesn't matter too much depending on how you do this, and we'll set the viewport display to dark as well. Then we'll add a new material and we'll call this left, and we'll just give this a viewport color of say green for the moment, and then another new material and we'll call this right, and we'll give this, for example, a red color. Then we'll go into edit mode, face select still, we'll select the left side, click the left material and say assign, select the right side, click the right material and assign that. So now you can see we've got red on the right, green on the left and black everywhere else. So that's our basic shape for the lenticular object. And now what we need to do is just extend that up. So I'm going to scale the object down a little bit to begin with, and then scale Z and just scale it up. Now, the more of these objects you want to create, the more of these little triangular shapes that you have, the finer the detail will be. Although you're not limited in detail to this face, it will be a smoother effect. But obviously, if we're trying to create a lenticular effect, we probably want to be able to see it. So you don't want it to be too small. So I'll keep mine at about that. And then we need to add a modifier, which is an array modifier. By default, it will use the width of the object automatically, and it will be set to 1 by default, which is just right. So we'll add a number of these, perhaps not go too far, something like that. So I've added, we'll call that nice round 80 there. And then what I'm going to do is just apply that array modifier. We need to do this because we're going to need to unwrap this now. So if we click this little arrow here, we can click apply. So there's no modifier on there anymore, but we have got a shape that we need. So we could do this by calculations, but we probably don't really need to. Go into orthographic mode, which is pressing 5 on the numpad. You can see if we're in perspective mode, we can actually see different faces depending on where they are relative to the camera. But if we go into orthographic mode, here we can see both faces, but as we rotate the camera to the right, which I'm doing by just holding down the windy wheel on the mouse and moving the mouse, you can see gradually all those little gaps disappear. We do get some artifacts that still show up, and we just need to get it roughly straight. You could, of course, rather than move the camera, just move the object itself. So for example, I'm going to rotate on the Z 45, and there you can see we've got a nice green colored object. I'm going to go into edit mode, A twice to unselect everything, go to the materials, select the left material because it's the green that we can see, and say select, and then press U, project from view, bounds. And now I'm going to come out of edit mode, rotate on the Z minus 90, so that's basically 45 the other way. Go into edit mode, A twice to unselect everything, select the right color, and then click select. And again, U, project from view, bounds. So what we've done is we've unwrapped, in that second case, just the red faces, and previous to that we unwrapped just the green faces. So we've got an unwrap which will work at those angles to show us our texture. So I'm just going to go into the shader editor and I'm going to create an emission texture rather than a simple diffuse one, simply because I then don't need to add a light into the scene. So I'm going to add texture, which is an image texture. Just drop that there. By default, it will use the unwrap we've already done, so we don't need to add a texture coordinate for this, and then drop that into the base color of our principled shader. And then we need to open up an image, and I'll select this one, and there it is. Now you can see it's a little bit distorted. We need to just alter the UV slightly. So we'll go to the UV editor, we'll call up the image I just used, and then we'll go into edit mode, and we've already got the right side selected, so we can just have a look at how that aligns. It's not too bad actually, but we can just adjust it here. So what we'll do is we will scale on the Y just to shrink the image down a little bit there, and scale on the X, bring it out, and I'll just put it over here, I think. So that's our image for that side. So pressed A twice to unselect everything while in edit mode. We'll go back to the shader editor, we'll select the left material, and we'll add again an image texture. We'll drop that into the base color and we'll select open, and this time we'll select a different image. So let's go for this one. So we now need to be looking from a different angle, and there we go. You can now see the image there. So already we've done the effect for a still image. What would be nicer is to be able to see this without having to illuminate it first. We're just looking at this in preview mode at the moment. I'm going to switch over to Eevee, then I'm going to go to rendered mode, and I'm going to set the background color to black. Now we can't see anything at the moment because we're just using the diffuse shader. I can take that out of there and I can put it into emission, and now we can see our shape again. Now those little black lines, that is that gap that I left at the front of my shape. If you don't want those, then you can just set that to 0, so there's no little gap there. But I think it's handy just to show at least what's going on. The other one, of course, is not yet an emission shader, so I will go to material, select the right side, and transfer this down to the emission input, and there it is. And that's all there is to creating a still image lenticular object. And if you want one or both of them to be moving images, if we go back to the left side, what we'll do is we'll remove that node and we'll add a texture which is an image sequence. So I've got an image sequence here. I've selected everything. I say import sequence, and there it is. I'll take this down to the emission shader. I'll say cyclic and auto refresh, and sometimes you will need to go through a few frames for it to just recognize that there are images there. And now if I click play, because we are in Eevee, so it renders reasonably quickly. The image was relatively still to start with, but you can see by the time we get up to here, we've got some movement going on, and I can shift over to the other side where we've got a still image, and then shift back again. And that's all there is to creating this sort of lenticular effect, which you might find all sorts of uses for. So I hope you found that interesting. If you did, let me know, and I'll see you in the next tutorial. Don't forget to click like and subscribe, and I have a Facebook group and a Patreon channel, so feel free to go over and check those, and links for them will be in the description below. Thanks a lot.